to have you join us for our monthly meeting, regular meeting of the Harwich Golf Committee, December 18th. And just one general announcement regarding the services of Mike Surgeon, who's been outstanding as far as our secretary is concerned. There's an established protocol with a lot of other town committees, and in 2019, we're going to have the luxury of having Mike review minutes away from the meeting. The videotape is adequate enough. Several of the other committees are using that technique, so it frees him up to do other things and does not conflict with his day off as well. So,
Day off.
just a minor thing.
You know, said Roman was
I thought you lived in the pro shop.
Free that man. Okay, first item of business is the consent agenda, and you have the minutes circulated. Thanks, Mike, on with regards to that. And also, the tournament schedule for 2019, I'd like approval for that. So a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, and seconded by Jack Conley. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Under old business, and as we have announced informally in today's public meeting, we get a chance to formally announce that the hot stove contract has been resolved, and Roman was closest to the whole process, so I just a quick couple of comments about that.
Clem, you didn't have on here a spot for me to do a director's report. Should I do a general report of what's going on? I can do something quick? Or do you want me to go right
Certainly,
into that?
or does your preparation mesh with the items that I had?
I
on
went
the
right
agenda?
into the report next. You want me to,
Okay.
I can, I don't have
Why
anything
don't you
too in-depth.
segue that then? Perfect.
So I just wanted to give a general overview of what we're working on right now for 2019. Our day-to-day operations include the marketing plan for 2019. We're sending this week our annual letter to our hotel partners, sending them our rates and fees and encouraging them to how to get priority bookings in January. We're working on the tournament schedule. You just approved it, but that's still always a work in progress for the tournaments that have not yet confirmed. We're building T-sheets currently for the upcoming year within Chelsea. We're preparing the membership sales. January 7th is when we'll start accepting those. We're preparing for advanced reservations of tee times on, once again, January 7th. We're preparing the website update that we do annually and the Chelsea update that we do annually. We have a few different parameters we're going to use with Chelsea. And then we're going to once again update our app. So that's kind of what our operations team's working on right now, in addition to the golf course projects, the cart barn project, and exploring the first tee opportunities that we've discussed. So I'm going to go right into hot stove lease.
Could I ask a question about that?
Yes, Tom?
On the first tee thing, do we have a written proposal, or is it?
No, we're still really in the infancy stages of that. I have a meeting scheduled for January with the Mass Golf, the head of the first tee program for Mass Golf,
Okay,
just to, once again, just to explore ideas.
Would we be the only course on the Cape that?
No, they currently have the second largest program in all of New England is at Hyannis Golf Course.
Yes.
It's so successful, they're hoping to open a second one on Cape, further down Cape.
So
They don't see any kids from our area here.
It'd be a
participating.
satellite kind of.
It'd be its own independent
Okay.
program. They're currently not seeing any kids from this part of the Cape participating down there, so they'd like to see this part of the Cape addressed.
Thank you.
They do have a directive to open 3 more programs in New England, and they've got us tagged as one of the 3 in New England, so that's pretty high regard.
Thank you.
Okay, the hot stove lease. So as Clem was mentioning, we're announcing the renewal of the hot stove lease, the 2-year extension. It took a lot of negotiation, and really it's so funny, everybody was so opinionated about the negotiation. I think at the end of the line, what we can say the most difficult thing to negotiate with Ron was his desire to do it for 2 more years. He really has personal concerns about doing it, and I think you took that away from that as well, didn't you, Clem?
Yeah.
It was really
exactly.
talking him into and talking himself into doing it for 2 more years. Less that, or more that than the dollars and cents. The facts are, we have a 2-year extension with rent $10,000 in the first year, $12,000 in the second year. The golf course will be purchasing $2,500 in gift certificates in March of each of those 2 years to help him, and we'll pay those out in league winnings. And then over that time, we will buy out his investment in the place. So we'll with 4 different installments, we'll pay a total of $40,000 to create the turnkey operation we were hoping to, so that at the end of the 2 years, if he chooses not to come back, everything in there will stay.
Roman, just a quick question about
Yeah.
the gift certificates. Is that men and women?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be evenly distributed. We're not exactly sure how. We're gonna buy them first, and then we're gonna pick a few weeks during the midsummer where we'll pay out the men's league, pay out the ladies' league, pay out the Twilight League, and a certain percentage of gift certificates.
Excellent.
And then that's the real bones of the lease agreement.
Excuse me, are the gift certificates for use at Hot Stove Cranberry or Hot Stove Cranberry and Hot Stove downtown?
That's up to Ron, and he initially decided they'd be good at both places, both restaurants.
Really?
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
But that being said, I would hesitate to say that for sure, because we're buying them from him. It's up to him how he wants to track them and process them.
Nice perk.
Although we prefer that people use it here.
Oh, yeah.
It's an idea to get new people in the
Right.
restaurant.
Yeah.
The idea was just to get some new people in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Good point, John.
But the negotiations were, took a long time, I know, but they were in very good, good-spirited, negotiations, and he's happy to be back. We're thrilled to have him back. Is there anything else to comment on that?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're to be congratulated, in my mind, because he's done so much on that restaurant. You and I have been trying to do this for years with different people in and out. And I do hope that, like, when there's 1 year up, we begin to think about how there's going to be some kind of a transfer over, so that we're not like starting all over again kind of thing.
Right.
Nice job.
Thanks, Tom. The one nice element that we added to this extension is it ends on December 31st
Yeah.
at the end of it. So it's not going to carry into March, which was a difficult date with the previous lease.
Right.
Especially for the license transfers,
Yeah,
which
yes,
were always
exactly.
problematic.
Exactly.
And we hope he carries on. We hope he shows a desire to carry on.
Right.
It'd be nice to carry the name on, too, because it has
Yeah.
recognition.
Yeah.
So,
But I thought the town administrator, he led the negotiations. I thought he did a wonderful job, really got invested in it.
Yeah.
And he included the selectmen in the negotiation process, because I think it's safe to say he was uncomfortable going down in the rent without getting the selectmen's approval.
Right.
So we had an executive session with the selectmen to discuss that, and they approved it.
Were they supportive of the
They were very
conditions?
supportive.
very.
Very good. Very good, thank you.
Well,
And I had an opportunity the last few weeks of the sweeps to talk to the people I was playing with in the sweeps, and they were absolutely thrilled with this idea of the prize monies, a portion of the prize money going to the hot stove gift certificates.
that's good
They're looking
feedback.
forward to getting people off the course and into the restaurant because they have the gift certificate and have that become a more regular practice, so.
We've gotten very positive
Yep, I think
feedback
that was a
on that.
brilliant idea. That's
Good.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how this all works out, because next year, 2,500 could become X in
Yeah.
lieu of.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny, in the negotiations, that number for gift certificates was actually much higher at one point in the negotiations, and Ron preferred to see the rent go down than the gift certificates go up. So he negotiated for less in gift certificates and less in rent, as opposed to more gift certificates, more rent.
interesting.
There's quite a few meals that are served up at the community center for lots of different people. At some point, after the 2-year period, it might be that the town itself wants to own this place and run it and not lease it out. Who knows what'll happen? But as long as all of the assets are there and we've upgraded everything, it's really done a great job with this.
Thank you. I think this 2-year bridge to us having a turnkey operation is huge. I thought that was really one of the goals of this negotiation, was to complete this 2-year bridge to where we assume ownership of all the assets.
Exactly.
And I think,
That's true, okay, but we need to remember I hear what you're saying, Tom, but we need to remember what business the town is in.
Yeah.
And we've been down this road
Oh,
before.
I understand,
Okay, so
yeah.
just be careful, it's slippery slope.
I think
We're
that,
already in the business, if you go to those community center breakfasts, every third Friday of the month, I mean, there's all kinds of people.
That's not like a
But that-
full-fledged restaurant.
But that's
It's different.
volunteer.
It's
Well,
different.
It
It's
is,
volunteer
it
too,
is
yeah.
different, yeah.
Different.
I think the nice thing, this has never been a very attractive lease. Ron was the only one that applied for the last RFP. I think we're gonna, for the first time, have a very attractive lease in 2 years.
Oh, we will.
I think so, because we will have the turnkey operation. It won't require somebody to come in and make a major investment.
Will we have access to his financials in terms of, how much
Yes.
revenue he gets? And,
Yep.
'cause I really do anticipate, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think the revenue's gonna go up based on those gift certificates.
Well, it already
and
has in this last year.
Even outside of the gift certificates, because people are gonna get more and more used to.
His business
Getting
has
off
been
the course and
increasing.
going in
I
the
think he's gonna
restaurant.
have his 2 profit years, or these next 2 years,
Yeah.
would be my guess.
That'd be
Yeah.
very helpful.
Was this year a profit year?
Yes, it was. His first one.
First one, yeah.
Good.
And if you think about most businesses, Jack, in a 5-year window, that's usually the ladder.
Yeah.
3 years, you start to break one way or the other, and this has been positive. I think that was part of his disposition to,
He sees it going in the right direction.
exactly. Okay,
Are there periods when he has to be open or similar to the previous thing?
It's, the extension of the lease keeps everything's the same, as far as hours of operation. And we told him we'd be flexible with him on that. He had a few personal concerns that kind of sealed the deal. If something personally happened to him where he was not able to be there full-time, would the town consider it a breach of the lease? And Chris Clark gave him his word, no, we would work with them on that. And that was really the deal sealer, because he was a little worried about personal circumstances.
Key also for him is also not only getting people in the restaurant, but also having a stable workforce.
Yeah.
And
It's always
that's been
gonna be
a
the
challenge.
trouble.
It's been a challenge, not only for him, but for all small businesses.
That's always gonna be the challenge there, yeah.
okay, next item up, capital project update.
Okay. Capital project update, it's a little thin, I'll tell you where we stand. Everything's dictated by our Eversource negotiations. We had a conference call with the town's lawyer, it's their specialist in utilities yesterday, and the Eversource with their project manager, their lawyers, myself, Sean Fernandez, and the town administrator were in the town administrator's office for the conference call. The conference call was not completed. It was we walked away from it saying, let's do a little more research on a few key areas and take it up again on January 2nd. So I'm really hesitant to go too deeply into what our game plan is and go on public record saying it, because we're in negotiations right now with them. And everything in the project is dictated on where we come out of this, as far as are we gonna do a plan A, a plan B, or a plan C. In general, the town administrator is committed to having a grand opening of the car barn on May 1st with power in the building, regardless of, is it 3-phase power? Is it a temporary 100-amp service to open the doors and turn on the lights? We'll have the parking lot paved, aspects of the landscape plan completed. But we'll see to what degree it's solar or the full landscape plan. That's all really dictated currently on these negotiations with Eversource.
Okay.
So connecting the cart barn to the maintenance power supply has been put on hold, or
Yeah,
until this gets resolved?
The Eversource position is our request for new service has triggered a situation where we need to upgrade the system, where the need for more power has triggered a need for us to come up to code, and the current infrastructure is not up to code. And the town disputes their claim on that. So, yeah, so just so our simple idea of bringing the 3-phase power, which is at the pump house, up to the new building, has triggered a whole big response from them.
And up to code implies additional money.
Yeah, a lot of money. They want the town to pay for it. And what you're basically talking about is direct bury wires from the Oak Street all the way up throughout the facility, all the way up to our pump house. That's out of code currently. And they want us to dig all that up, put it in conduit. And then create a loop system where it then comes back in conduit as well in case there's a break. And the town lawyer is disputing it, and so we're in dispute right now.
So is the town's I mean, is what you stated about being ready to open May 1st, I mean, is that contingent upon this being resolved?
I think there's, we're exploring a number of options, and the way to get, we need to resolve this with Eversource to get the full job completed, which would be 3-phase power, which would then create a electric highway for us to send power back to the grid from our solar grid. We need 3-phase power to do that. We may be able to get by with opening the building with 100 amp service. It does not require Eversource's approval. So that'd be a plan B that is on hold to see where these negotiations currently go.
As far as, you know, the ancillary projects around the building, is that the only picture you have, Rome?
Yeah,
As
it's
far
a-
as the wall is concerned?
Yeah, so the wall in front of the building, the front of the car building, that's going to be completed and landscaped. And then when we demolish the current car barn and move the gas tank, the retaining wall will be created there with the walkway at a minimum. We're going to have to wait and see. The money, what I'd say basically is the money with the project is tied up until we resolve this.
But I'm referencing our wall, everyone, is complete,
Yes.
For the building.
as opposed to another wall.
You also, Roman, you also said they're gonna repave the parking lot.
Yes.
I have an agreement with them.
Would that entail tearing down the cart barn, because aren't you gonna put parking where the cart barn is?
Yes, I would. So that's all in the plans for early spring and the paving in it to happen in April. So at a minimum, the plan by May 1st is to have the parking lot repaved with the cart barn demolished, the parking going all the way up there, a retaining wall there with a walkway according to our landscape plans. That's all in the works.
Is this requirement for the electronic superstructure because we're having electric carts?
Yeah.
Could we function if we kept the regular carts?
Yeah, so if we do the temporary 100 amp service, which is a plan B or C or wherever it falls on the line right now, we've discussed, we're gonna talk about the cart lease shortly, but we've discussed with Yamaha, our current vendor, we could have those carts back for a 6th year
Plan
out of
B.
that building as a plan B with a 100
Plan
amp
B.
service,
Okay.
which is not enough to charge electric carts.
Right.
But our work order for 3-phase power to the building is what triggered their need for us to upgrade our infrastructure.
So the golf experience would not be interrupted
Right.
because of this, yeah.
It'd still be enhanced. I mean, I think us opening with the new cart barn and the new parking configuration would be, I'd consider phase 1 of the project done, and the experience would be
Right.
enhanced with more to come.
Thank you.
You also mentioned you were going to do something relative to improving access to the hot stove. Will that be in place?
Yeah, so we're working with the same landscape architect that designed the project, the front of the building project, to create a very small, simple parking area to the east of the clubhouse between the 10th and 14th tees there and the hot stove. Just basically a parking area for carts. And part of the lease agreement with Ron was he would be included in the design of that. So we're working with a landscape architect right now for options, and that should be ready for next year.
Okay. If we can then, next item is the CART Committee recommendations. John Wheeler and John Crook and Roman have been collaborating, so
Oh,
It's a little easier to read than that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so,
That's good.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
On a dovetail, some of these comments on a dovetail that Roman has shared, but just to go back and remind you of what the objective was, and that's to recommend to the golf committee, and the manufacturer who delivers the best electric golf cart option when the current lease expires. And we're gonna replace those with electric carts, about 80 of them, and there's some additional carts that are for specific functions that I know Sean needs as well. Rationale, you can see the rationale. I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but clearly they're more efficient than gas ones. The maintenance is going to be much more cost effective. I think this whole approach with the use of solar is consistent with the town's focus on energy efficient solutions to our needs. And certainly the cost of the gas carts will be revenue positive with the addition of solar panels, enabling us to provide our own energy source. Issues, and I think Roman's gone in spades over the last several meetings, that we're facing now is Eversource ongoing, leading to a delay in releasing the cart bid solicitation to vendors. And electrification of the new building through extension from the maintenance building has already been addressed through Roman's comments and your questions as well. Steps. We met last week with Evan Malillo, Assistant Town Administrator, this is Roman and I, and talked about bringing him up to speed as to where we are with it and what we're looking for. And shared, and I know Roman shared some additional documents. Is it the OSD document?
Yes.
And from that, Evan concurs, okay, that we don't need an RFP, we need just a scope document that then would be shared with the three vendors. And we've identified who those three vendors are, and you see them listed. And we also talked about this notion of, because they all, we're focusing on battery technologies, and I think we've all agreed, okay, that we want to be specific in the scope document saying we're looking for lithium battery technology. And to varying degrees, each of these manufacturers provide that capability, some more than others. Let me just leave it at that, okay? And but clearly we're looking for lithium-ion technologies. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, including the lightness of the carts, including the ability to be able to spot charge them, the ability not to have to refill them with water, and it goes on and on and on, okay? So it clearly is the latest and greatest in terms of technologies. You see the next three steps, okay, are completed. And so I think a key point that we all agreed on is down below that dashed line of the things that have occurred since our last meeting. We've all agreed to develop a scope document in parallel with the negotiations of Eversource. We don't want to be in a situation where all of a sudden we come to an agreement and Eversource says, okay, let's get to the scope document. Okay, so we're going to do this in parallel. John has provided some guidelines on that, as in John Crook, and we're going to work with Evan as our Chief Procurement Officer to make sure that gets done in a timely fashion, so that when that agreement is reached, we're ready to release. Okay. I know at the same time, Roman, you've talked with each of the manufacturers to say how long would it take once you get the directive and you're chosen, okay, to provide those. And if I recall, you said it would not take. What was it?
I thought less than 60 days.
60 days. Okay. In addition to that, we talked about this notion of. Roman had mentioned about his discussions with Yamaha, who've already agreed to an extension on a month-by-month basis, okay, of our current lease, okay, to allow us to continue on with all the other activities that are underway. We talked at length about this notion of 3 years versus 5-year leases, and we had talked at our last meeting about that. And the question in my mind, okay, was there an incentive? Would the manufacturers provide us with an incentive to go with a longer lease? And I think your response was not significantly.
I have the last RFP that was for the current car lease we're on. They asked for terms for 3, 4, and 5 years, and it was 1 percentage point difference where the town kept 76% of the revenue in a 5-year lease, 75% of the revenue in a 4-year lease, 74% of revenue in a 5-year lease.
So it's not a significant difference.
So it's not significant. 3-year lease, sorry.
So irrespective of, so when it comes to longer-term leases, okay, for that reason, that being only one of the reasons, okay, it really isn't in our best interest to pursue that. Second thing is, in terms of these technologies, they're changing. Like all technologies, things advance, they change, et cetera, et cetera. So the longer a lease we got, okay, the more we can be tied into something which is old stuff.
Right.
And we know in the case of, for example, with Club Car, they're introducing the lithium-ion in 2019.
Yeah.
And so who knows how this whole thing will emerge over the 3-year period.
Good point.
Okay? And so, I mean, those are two of the major reasons. There were some other ones as well, but I think those are the two major ones. Did I miss one on that, Roman?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay. Then, let's see, what else?
I could ask, John.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So your point, that 3-year contract thing that we had talked about last meeting, that's moot. because we'll go for 3 years. We don't
Yeah.
have to get anybody's permission to do
Yes.
that.
Exactly.
That's much more
That's the
efficient.
reason,
Yep.
that's the reason.
Our procurement officer, Evan, recommended it as well.
Strongly,
Not
yeah.
only does he support it, that was his recommendation.
3 years.
Because the technology's so new, he recommended 3 years.
Yeah, good
And
point.
if you go longer than that, you have to go to town meeting for the
Yes,
lease.
exactly.
Since I got through each of these points I'm going through is that we're in lockstep with Evan
Yeah,
on each of these things, okay? And also he came up with some suggestions and recommendations from his procurement expertise that I think helped to clarify our situation and our points.
Excellent.
We're going forward, so he's been a real asset thus far. Now, in terms of the structure of it, you could obviously go with a purchase, you could go with the lease arrangements, or we could go with a revenue sharing model, which we have done previously. And the feeling at this point, okay, is it's in our best interest to continue with the revenue sharing model. Any comment on that, Ron?
I agree. I think especially with things up in the air, no change is good because I've already had to submit our golf budget for next year, and it would have significant impact on the FY20 budget if we decide to go with a lease instead of revenue share. So I think the town benefits from the revenue share.
And do each of the three manufacturers, would they support that kind of an
I
arrangement?
believe that when we met with them all early in the spring or late spring, early summer, they all said they would.
Okay, So that's the direction we're going in terms of the contract. And then we're going to continue to pursue the status of current efforts to electrify the new building from existing sources. And Roman has addressed that notion as Plan B or C or D, whatever it's going to be, okay? And then move the gas carts to the new building as soon as the new cart barn is electrified through whatever source it's going to be. So I think we're moving forward. I'm happy on behalf of the committee that we are moving in parallel with this scope document development. I think it's going to help speed up the process. And I, other than the Eversource thing, I think we're in good shape. We're in really good shape in terms of moving forward with this.
I do too.
Nice job, John.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Very
very
good.
good.
So,
I like
Very
the fact,
thorough.
I mean, the most significant thing here is working in concert with the procurement officer, for the town. I think that,
Right.
well, credit goes to the man across the way, okay, because when I went up to meet with Roman, okay, he just said, by the way, I invited Evan to our meeting, and I said, oh, okay. So,
It's going to
Done
crash
well.
into his desk at some point. Might as well bring him on board right off the bat, right?
amen to that. So, there we are, that's where we're at.
Roman, just a question back on the electrification.
Yeah.
If Eversource doesn't, won't fund the upgrade, let's call it an upgrade, you indicated it's a substantial expenditure, so are you gonna have to go back to, is that another capital project? Or would you just stay with gas carts?
We're not there yet. I think this project at the top level is being directed by the town administrator, so we'll discuss with him the options, I think, when it comes down to it. He's exploring all avenues, and we've recently got a list of all Eversource approved contractors. We're gonna try to get a quote for exactly what Eversource wants for the job. It's been loosely quoted by town officials at $200,000 to $250,000 would be what Eversource is wanting us to do. I don't think it'll end up losing to the point where we're just on the hook for it all. I think it's a negotiation on some level will happen, or like I said, a plan B will happen, which is being developed. But no, I think the goal is always at the end. If you're saying, place a bet on if we're going to be driving gas carts in 2019, we'll see. That maybe we may be heading in that direction. I think the project is definitely heading towards. It's going to be electric carts with a solar roof and everything. The project's going to be completed in full at the end of the line. I just don't know how quickly. It all depends on this negotiation.
John, is there anything you need from us in terms of endorsement of this recommendation that you've put forward?
I just, in minutes, just to say, okay, that you concur with where we're headed in terms of next steps, I think would be good to do. Nothing really revolutionary here, but I think it would be good to put it on the record that the committee endorses where we're going with this project.
Okay. Would you?
On
Put that-
Jack's thing, I was thinking that if that happened, that we were faced with that and a new capital, we'd have to get someone to give us a marginal efficiency between the two operations to show that over time, the cost of maintaining it would be down to the town. And in other words, you know what I mean, it would have to be a highly professional analysis of those two possibilities. And for us to go back out to the town, and probably it would go to town meeting as a capital expenditure, you know, because we're not gonna up our rates and things. So it'd have to be compelling too, so we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I'd wait and see.
Yeah.
I think there's avenues to take there. I'd wait and see.
Okay,
So do we want to make a motion to
I-
say the committee?
I'd like that.
All right.
Steve, if
I'll
you-
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a second?
Second? I'll second that, yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? All in
Oh,
favor?
Great job.
Aye.
Aye.
John, thank you.
Nice job.
That's great.
Thank you, Jason.
That way, and the best part is, I think that gives Roman a lot of direction as far as when you get into the terms of any agreement and moving forward, especially during the winter. Hopefully, that's gonna take place, and you can keep us in the loop.
I will. The car committee's been very helpful.
Excellent.
We've been very careful to provide support and advice and counsel where we can, but not to step in.
Yeah.
It's not, it's.
It's been good teamwork. It's been very good teamwork.
Very good.
Great.
Okay, some comments on the winter work plan. Obviously, I sent you people a few pictures. Jack, I appreciate the fact you're out there on the ground but I was impressed. That's why I sent those pictures out to you. The new cart path extensions are terrific, and there's a lot of other things that are in progress as far as bunker renovation's concerned, and eventually some tree removal. Roman?
Okay. I've got the report directly from Sean on this, so bear with me while I read. It's been a long year and finally coming to an end. The golf course is put to bed. Sorry, this is going to cover the whole golf course. We're officially on temp greens and tees and putting the finishing touches on some of the winter projects. The following is an update of what was done and what is still left to do. Cart paths on number 6 tee and number 12 green side paths have been installed. And those are installed, those were built according to the Mark Mundrum cart plan, so we just built them following the plans. Resodding of bunkers, various holes, such as number 2 green side, number 3 green side, 8 green side, 9 green side, 10 green side, 11 green side, and 14 green side. Roughly 5,000 square feet of sod was installed. Tree work is getting ready to start after the new year on the following holes, 5, 4, and 3. Trees will be marked for removal and stumps will be ground below grade to prep them for loam and seed in the spring. The Cart Barn Landscape doing as much as we can to prep for a busy spring and try to wrap up the project. Before you know it, spring will be here and we're prepping for another fun full season ahead. In general, I know we're gonna talk next, Clem, about warrant articles. The one thing we've gotten to do is by doing these bunkers that have been resodded, we've done a few of them where we've done the full dig out, the liner, the dreaded liner, and gotten cost of those. We've done those out of our own budget. And it turns out that we're getting about average to large size bunker, such as the bunker on hole 3, would be about $5,000 to do that full resurface the face with sod, dig it out, pull the liner, refill it with sand to edge it. So when we look at our future projects, which we've had on for the FY20, $75,000 to do a bunker renovation, we were thinking we can do about $5,000 per bunker.
Excellent. Excellent. Any questions on those renovations?
And again, where would those funds come from? For
What's
those
that?
bunkers? For the,
The project we're currently doing?
Yeah.
That's out of budget. The ones we did this year were out of budget. The car paths were out of the golf improvement fund.
Okay, thanks.
Just personally, I don't know what you thought, Jack, but especially on number 12, that available area down by the green is it's terrific. Moving that, I mean, it's a simple thing that we've done, but it's just,
My only concern is I hope you get them to go to that cart path. There's a lot of built up, we always went down this path,
Yeah.
and it really is in the woods. I mean, it's great, it's out of the way.
Yeah.
So.
There's ways, we can handle that with signage, ropes.
There's signage and there's rope techniques and those little stubbies. I think, does he use those?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's gonna create a much better turf area. It's funny, this is, really, goes with the USGA trackers we used, the data loggers, that showed our golfers are not hitting wedges over that pond onto that green. They're going left on that bailout and bouncing the ball up a lot more. So they're playing right where the cart path was, and the
That's
cart path
good.
is very in play,
Yeah,
so I think it's a significant change.
Gonna be- That's excellent.
Good point about the habits though, because on 16,
Yeah.
even though we get the cart path that goes down the hill and up and around the circle, comes back down, people don't, they want to drive right up to the edge of the green.
Right.
I mean, of the tee, and they park in the dirt, right next to it. I mean, they don't want to walk more than 3 feet, okay, with the tee in the ground, so they are creatures of habit.
They're creatures of habit.
Are you notifying like the members about these improvements? Because, I mean, when one thinks, it's not very exciting to think about doing a bunker over. On the other hand, when you're in one and it's, you can hit it out of there. It seems to me that we should let people know, because that's a lot of money, and I think that they should appreciate what you're trying to do here, in terms of.
We're starting our early membership drive at the beginning of January, taking memberships January 7th. I've got an email prepared that's gonna hype up what all the work that's been
That's a
done.
good idea.
What's coming for this year
Good
to help
idea.
kickstart the membership drive.
You
And then we
could even-
included
You could
the,
even include some of the pictures.
sure, sure. And then we included all this information in the letter we sent to the hotels to let them know we're investing in the property, that when their guests come, they're gonna see an every year improving property.
And just a thought on that, when you let the hotels know that they're having access, which is a pretty good deal for them, that if they want to make a donation to support the veterans that play here, that would be a very nice thing to do.
Good.
Why not?
Point time.
Why
Why
not?
not?
He didn't mention it, Roman, but I also think the water certainly in the 10th and the 12th tees seems to be a lot clearer with those circulators.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that in some of the past meetings. They've been very helpful. They've been very helpful. They've worked. They've done what we hoped they would do. Definitely. And then we've done the same thing in the irrigation pond, which was the pond that had the really bad algae bloom. We had a bad smell, all kinds of problems going, and that's cleared up as well.
And it was cost effective at the same time, man.
Money appropriated to fix it initially was a lot more than what it actually took.
In the capital plan, Jack, we had, I think I remember a number of like $50,000
$50,000,
plus. And,
That was my first year. When I first came in, I inherited that project, yeah. And Chris Clark took the lead on that one and found a more cost-effective way of doing it.
Okay. On to new business. Warrant article recommendations and approval, I will be seeking that. I'm sorry I didn't have a draft copy for you, but I'll just explain where we're going. What we envision is 2 warrant articles to be submitted, and I intend to do that by the end of the week. The town administrators put us on the fast track to accelerate that process. The first article will deal with tree removal, very similar in wording to last year's warrant article. If you want to reference it, it's Article 28 in the 2018 warrant, and it basically asks for the sum of $35,000 this year to continue our tree removal. And for the record, we're in our 6th year all of a sudden, as far as tree removal is concerned. And the proof is in the quality of the turf that keeps, moving forward in terms of people play, so you can bear testimony to that.
Does the warrant indicate that we are in line
Self-funded.
with the USGA? These are the recommendations?
Yes.
Just because that's an external standard that people can acknowledge and say, oh, yeah. I
That
see
wording is in there,
Exactly.
Tom, yes.
And without,
That wording is in there, yes.
It is in there, yeah.
and without getting too
Yeah, no.
constrictive,
Yeah.
we'll also reference the fact that this tree removal would be specific to the front 9. What we'd accomplished on the back 9, we're past that point. And as Roman indicated, the tree work that's being done this winter, it's front 9 specific.
okay.
So that would take care of the first warrant article. And the second one, collateral to what Roman was talking about, and it's really, if you think back, if we were approaching bunker renovation the way we had traditionally done it, I mean,
Yeah.
you're in it for about $500,000.
Right.
This second article will ask for $75,000 for bunker renovation at the discretion of the superintendent. And this way, by stepping up through our golf improvement fund,
Right.
it puts Sean back on track to do bunkers by budget, correct, Roman?
Correct.
And
There's no big,
Yeah.
big capital
Yeah.
project.
From
coming.
existing resources.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
this is very proactive in that respect.
yeah.
Any further questions?
So when you say it'll be by Sean's discretion, which I think is fine,
Yeah.
Sean's discretion in terms of the priority of which ones are done and the order in which they're done,
Yes.
but not, he decides, no, we don't need to do any, and the
No,
money's
no,
gonna
which
go
ones?
back, or he decides we need to do 5 times as many next year,
And
and he
this-
needs 5 times the money.
As Clem said, we have $24,000 in the budget each year to keep up with bunkers. And if you spend $24,000 a year, you actually fall a little bit behind. This $75,000 would get us out ahead, and then every year, we're gonna continue that $24,000 to stay ahead. So this is needed to catch up on some
Sure.
falling behind, instead of just, well, letting them all deteriorate and doing the $500,000 renovation of all of them.
So I would just recommend that when you say it, at his discretion, in terms of the order in which they're going to be done, or something like that,
Just,
to clarify.
just a question, Roman, you mentioned 5K to renovate and restart a budget.
Mhm.
75 would give you 15 bunkers,
Approximately, yeah.
yeah, round number, right? And how many, you mentioned you've done quite a few this year already.
Right.
How many more, I mean, how many more are candidates to be refurbished?
So, like I said, Jack, this is ongoing every year, that we're gonna continue to just upkeep the bunkers, and that's a commitment to avoid the large capital project that would have to happen if you didn't do that. The 15 or so that would catch us up, basically. So, basically, once we did these 15 and caught up, Sean wants to, if you notice, the ones that we did this year are some of the most visited bunkers,
Right,
most high-profile bunkers.
right.
So it would really address the most used bunkers, and then get us on track so that the 24,000 per year will keep us up to date for another decade or so.
Any feel for how long, I mean, it seems like we've done 11, I know you redid 11 this year. We've done that one before recently.
Yeah.
Is it like 2 or 3 years
No,
before a bunker, because of all the sand that
An
gets
average
thrown out?
lifespan of a bunker is like 5 to 8 years, but what we haven't done in the past is do the big dig it out and dig out the liner that's,
Yeah.
you know, if you think about it, this is a project that I think, when Clem and I were talking, this is really answering some of the biggest complaints we have from the membership. The membership hate the liners.
Oh, yeah, the line. is up, yeah.
And it was really problematic the way it was installed. Sean actually has some pretty nice techniques planned to maintain these bunkers in a new way, because the liner didn't really jive with our machinery. Our machinery would dig down too deep and grab the liner and pull it up when we were in there doing. So we don't anticipate that to be a problem anytime in the future. But in general, this warrant article will get us back on track to get bunkers up to date. So we have no major, we'll address all the major, most used bunkers.
I'm hoping that next year, okay, that we get to poll number 7, because
Oh,
like
God.
inside bunker tends to, like a magnet with my golf
It
club.
is, it is.
That'll be
Okay,
part of
when I get
it.
into there, okay, and I swing and I catch that netting underneath, okay, it's not.
Right.
When we talk about the most used bunkers.
Write that
Also,
down, everyone.
11, number 11.
11. Those are on the list.
Pete, do you have a favorite bunker that you'd like to,
Can you tell?
in the fairway.
Oh, ouch.
You didn't even know we had bunkers.
That's great.
okay. If there's no other conversation relative to this, I'd like a motion to approve petitioning the town for 2 warrant articles, one for tree reclamation and in the amount of $35,000 and $75,000 for bunker renovation.
So moved.
Okay?
Second?
Any other discussion?
Yes,
Yes.
should we see the text of these warrant articles before we vote on this? The draft of the wording of them, or no? As a committee?
As a committee, absolutely.
Okay, so what are we approving then? Are we approving you're going forward to write this up and then submit it back to us for review and approval?
Yeah, how would you like to handle that,
It's a
everyone?
process, I'm just.
When do you need these?
Well, I was trying to be proactive. I really, because they're going on Christmas vacation and so on, I want to get it done by,
There's a deadline in January.
yeah, I want to get it done by this committee. You know,
Can't
we
you-
don't
can't
have the
you write
luxury of
them?
having a meeting in January, so I wanted to get
Oh.
the approval for the
Can
conceptual.
you send them to us
Yeah.
and we can vote
You vote by mail?
by mail, email?
I don't see why not. Okay?
I've done it
Yeah.
before in other
Yeah.
committees.
Okay, let's do that, Martha.
Why don't you do
I will,
that?
I will get those to you by Thursday,
Right,
okay?
and we'll
And if
vote
you-
on
and
it
if you
and send it to
Do
you.
the courtesy of responding immediately.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's fair.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Let me get a comment.
So a motion to approve conceptually the two warrant articles with that contingency,
Pending review and
and
vote.
review
Yes,
pending
and
review.
vote.
So moved.
Okay.
second.
And one thing I failed to mention was the fact that if you do the math, I thought someone might have that question. Based on the balance we have in our golf improvement fund and anticipated revenues going forward, we're going to be on the plus side even with these two deductions.
We should be, according to our priorities list of projects, we should still carry a balance forward after these projects Clem's mentioning, that it will be required because we've got some big ticket items in the future on our priority list, including the Mark Mundrum T plan.
Right. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just want
Okay.
a summary. Every year I buy a box of candy for the committee, and I deliver it to the two secretaries
Sandy,
here, and I
yeah.
also deliver it to the golf course. I did it today, so you can take credit for it.
Thank you, Tom.
Don, do you want a couple bucks?
For being
No, no,
so
The other
thoughtful.
question is, we all got this some time ago, an amendment to the charter,
Yeah,
where it says that, it used to say the golf committee shall full power and responsibility. That's been taken out. It says now the committee shall recommend governing policies for the maintenance operation for consideration to the Board of Selectmen. Now, having spent decades in municipal operations, this is a great way of delaying all kinds of stuff. Because if we decide something, in the old days, we simply would decide, today and tomorrow it's done. You have to then wait and notify. Has this ever passed, you know? Anybody know?
I
In the
th-
charter?
I know a little bit about it. I mean, I think a lot of the change came from, when I first got hired, there was a lot of old language in there. And I kept hearing, they're gonna update it, they're gonna update the charter.
Yeah.
And, this was I think it was this change in language was on the 2017 warrant at town meeting. And then it was at the 2018, this year's ballot. So it was voted on.
So has it been changed, that
Yeah,
this is
it's
the
been changed.
language now?
So it was voted on in the ballot this year, and it was voted on at the 2017 town meeting.
I think it has been changed, Tom.
It has been changed?
Yeah,
And I
believe
think
so.
those changes are in
Well,
effect.
it really cuts the accountability, the responsibility for us to do things.
Yes, it does.
Well, I'd like to know where it came from. And the thing that worries me is that because over time, this committee has gotten to town meeting to approve the golf improvement fund, the other funds, so that we could have some latitude in terms of the way we meet the needs of the golfers. And this then may now come under review as no longer do we have control over this. The selectmen do. It's a concern of mine, that's all. So where would we go to get more information about where this came from?
That came from the town clerk and the charter
And
review
that
committee.
you said, yeah, I'd like to look at the minutes of the committee, see who recommended this and why.
maybe we can archive that, Tom.
Could you get a copy of that, Roman, and
Get a copy of what?
of the change of wording?
Sure. I know,
Send
yeah,
it to us?
sure. I think I provided that one.
We-
Did you get a copy of that?
We got that.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah,
We got
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, it's the same copy everybody got.
Last meeting,
Oh, okay.
last meeting we had. it was
And,
added.
and although it's
I
not,
didn't get it because I wasn't here.
Okay.
and although it's not the total answer, Pete, you might have some insight.
I was just gonna comment, Roman mentioned it.
Yeah.
There was a standing committee called the Charter Review Commission.
Yeah.
And they're always reviewing things. And it seems to me, every other year, there's a language thing that's voted on at the town meeting.
And in terms of the history too, Tom, I found this astounding, because I asked some questions particular to this. And if you go back historically, this is absolutely amazing as far as I'm concerned. I believe the chairman of the Golf Commission at the time, they literally were signing payroll checks.
They were, yeah.
They were involved
And
in,
evaluating staff, too.
they were involved in,
But when you say that, Clem, I mean, on our operational side, it was a nightmare, I guess. You had to find a committee member to sign
Yeah.
payroll, to sign every, I mean, you should
Isn't that
see,
true?
you should see,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
you should see the weekly warrants I passed, I signed for bills. You'd have to find committee members to
Yeah.
sign the bills.
I understand the concern, but I mean, until the selectmen invite themselves here to countermand what we're doing, I think we're in a pretty good place. You know, there's always that potential.
No, you're right, and I just want us to be alert, because if anyone raises the issue, I want to know what is the issue here, because, you know, between you and, we got 22 years in this committee, between you and me, and no one ever came to us and said,
Oh.
there's a problem,
Absolutely.
and we're going to do this. It was all under the radar, which is all right. It concerns me greatly that anybody would do that, so, that's all. That's my piece.
Thank you. Okay, unless there's further business to bring before the committee, motion to adjourn?
Hand up
Or
earlier.
public comment, I'm sorry.
Public comment.
All set.
Okay, Matty, Jack? Public comment? Come on, okay, Caleb? All right, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Wonder what value wait your father.
all in favor?
Non-debatable.
And Merry Christmas,
Christmas.
everybody.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, Happy New Year.